If you wanted extra combat, you got it with Grim Reaper's Sprint. 5 mana is a marginal rate for a one-off extra combat, but as a permanent with some extra upside, it starts to feel better. But what if I told you, you could slam this bad boy for only 2 mana? That there is rustling my giblets, I'll tell you what. The morbid ability on this spell reduces the cost by 3 generic mana if a creature died this turn. It doesn't even have to be your creature. By the way, this is an enchantment aura, providing +2/+2 and haste. If you choose to attach it to a creature that has attacked already, that extra toughness will help it live through another combat. Or the formerly unhasted creature you played this turn can now get in on the action. You'll find this spell as a part of the Scrappy Survivor precon, where this good boy will make junk tokens out of enchanted creatures attacking, and can return this enchantment to your hand when he enters the battlefield. I think it works just fine in that deck, but I'm a huge fan of it in Mazzy, True Sword Paladin. I suppose your opponent could choose to never interact with the enchanted creature, but if this enchantment does end up in the graveyard, you get to cast it again until your next turn for more combat. There's also some funny lines where you can cast it multiple times in the same turn if your opponent keeps destroying the enchanted creature. In any case, if you like turning your cards sideways, this spell will be a ton of fun. And speaking of a ton, Megaton's fate is, I think, the only story beat I know from Fallout 3. But boy, did they nail this one. Before getting too much into it, get that cursor under the video and subscribe to the channel. If you do, I promise that you will literally never die. Unlike those folks in Megaton. Sometimes. This is a big ol' 6 mana spell that gives you 2 options, and from the flavor text, the right one and the wrong one. If you choose to disarm, you can destroy a target artifact and get rewarded with 4 treasure tokens, repaying you some of that mana cost. If you choose to detonate, this will most of the time be a full board wipe, dealing 8 damage to each creature, and then tagging each player with 4 rad counters on account of, you know, the atomic bomb exploding. Those rad counters will trigger at the beginning of each player's first main phase, making them mill a number of cards equal to the number of rad counters. They'll take a point of damage and remove a rad counter for each non-land card milled that way. Both of these modes are solid, especially in artifact and treasure decks, where that disarm payoff has all sorts of additional value, from affinity to raw power. I'm gonna touch on acquired mutation real quick for all my blame game enjoyers. This is another one of those enchantment auras like the Impetus and Vow series. You slap this on an opponent's priority creature and let it ravage everyone else, or watch it fight to its death while you go on about your business. Ian the Reckless is a hilarious card that may find itself in the dictionary as a reference to the figurative double-edged sword. If you attack with this creature when it's modified, meaning it has equipment, an aura, or a counter of any kind, it deals damage equal to its power to any target and straight to your own face. Without any help, Ian will lead you into a race that you can never win. But I feel like this is the exact kind of creature that sparks the brewmaster mentality in so many players to try and get this guy to actually win games. Red isn't well known for its life-gaining ability. In fact, just the opposite. So sustaining yourself that way won't work. It kinda seems like Glass Cannon is the way to go. Frankly, there couldn't have been a better time for the Fiendish Duo reprint and its damage doubling ability. I've got to get a move on with the rest of the video, but I'm interested to hear from you how you might go about building this. If you're so inclined, drop a deck list in the comments as well. The Motherload Escavator has got some energy counter action, a mechanic that I've never been too invested in, but I know a lot of the community was excited about seeing get more support. A 5 mana 5/5 is nothing to write home about, but the ETB trigger, gathering energy counters, equal to the number of non-basic lands a player controls, is getting there. There's probably a couple of players playing at least a couple of colors, so getting 4 energy counters, what you need to pay for this creature's attack trigger, is completely within the realm of possibility. Turns out that attack trigger is quite meaningful, letting you pay 4 energy counters to destroy a non-basic land the defending player controls. Land destruction, especially non-replaceable land destruction, can be brutal for your opponents. If you happen to hit their only land that can tap for a certain color, it might just be a scoop angle for them. You'll likely have plenty of options on how to use those energy counters though, so just be thoughtful of that before insta-paying for the Motherload. Vault 21, House Gambit, starts off with a couple rounds of card selection, making you discard a card, then draw a card, with the third chapter payoff being up to 5 treasure tokens. Not half bad for a 2 mana play, but how do you win the pot?
You got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up.
For real though, it's all about having matching mana values of non-land cards. If you throw down, revealing to the table 5 2-mana spells, that's 5 treasures. But a full house has the same effect. 2 spells of 1 mana value and 3 of another, since each spell shares a mana value with at least one other spell revealed. Vault 21 is a low-risk, high-reward spell in the right kind of deck, setting you up for a massive early play, or even just letting you dig for answers later on. I think the easiest place to slot this in would be the decks with multiples of the same spells, like Dragon's Approach, Slime Against Humanity, Rat Colony, even Persistent Petitioners. And to top it off, the flavor of this enchantment, letting you curate your hand before slamming it on the table to win the pot, is genius. I'm a big fan of this one. Wild Wasteland will be our last foray into red. Firstly, I love the art. It is so chaotic, with every next thing you notice outdoing the last. This enchantment makes you trade your draw step for 2 impulsively drawn cards on your upkeep, meaning that if you don't play them this turn, they're gone for good. Just like Phyrexian Arena, this is way better the earlier in the game you can play it. There are very few ways for this to impact the game in any way the turn you play it, so casting this on turn 3 to get 5+ cards over the course of the game is where you want to be. Because let's face it, on turn 9 there's almost for sure way too much happening for you to be worried about an extra card next turn, when the game may just be over by then. Next thing to note is the obvious comparison to Outpost Siege, which has been a great budget option with a similar effect. The differences being 1 additional mana, letting you draw 1 of the 2 cards, and offering Dragon Mode on ETB. I think Wild Wasteland is generally the better card. Having a quote-unquote dead turn 3 always feels better than a dead turn 4, and the decks that utilize these spells best want more cards in exile. And that brings me to my last note. This is good card advantage in a large swath of red decks, but premium card advantage in those decks that care about exiled cards. Lelia, the Blade Reforged, and Faldorn, Dreadwolf Herald are popular commanders that make great use of this effect. Or these Aftermath commanders, Pia Nalar, Consul of Revival, and Rocco Street Chef, whom also get these incremental advantages from cards in exile. That concludes the red spells I felt like talking about from this new Fallout set, and I gotta tell ya, I think it rises above white to be my favorite color in the set so far. I'm taking a look at green tomorrow though, so hit that subscribe button if you want the easiest access to check that out. Like the video if you liked the video, and let me know in the comments the most flavorful 5-card hand you can reveal with Vault 21. I'll catch you next time for some more monkeying around.